welcome to Palo. This is our intro session to really kind of, the purpose of this session is to really kind of introduce you to Palo and dig into some of the benefits of social emotional learning, share our goals with Palo, and also see an example of a student lesson, the dashboard, and the toolkit that you'll get to dig into. So we have lots of great resources, and you can kind of just follow along with this recording. And we also have an agenda that you can kind of use to click on some links as Michael and I facilitate, and you can kind of follow along. There are some guiding questions, and we'll show you that in just a moment. But my name is Morgan Atkins, and I'm a coaching advisor here at Palo. Really excited to be here with you all today, coming to you from upstate New York. So I am working closely with Michael on the curriculum at Palo, and I'm also an instructional coach. So I love supporting educators in things like social emotional learning. And we have Michael here as well. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Michael.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Palo introduction. I'm the research director at Palo and also the expert coach behind the student learning experience. I'm currently located in Los Angeles, California, and I can't wait to introduce Palo to you guys.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. As you are following along with the session, we have some opening questions to just get you thinking about what you know about social emotional learning, whether you have a lot of experience with social emotional learning or not much experience at all. That is okay. So we have some guiding questions here for you to think about, and these are also in your agenda. So you can click where it says opening questions and it'll pop you right down. So take a moment here to jot down your thoughts, or just take a meta moment and kind of silent solo think to yourself where you are. What do you know about social emotional learning? How do you currently use social emotional learning in your classroom or your school or your daily life? How do you feel about implementing social emotional learning? And what challenges maybe have you experienced with incorporating this into your classroom or your school or your daily life? So we'll take a moment here for you to kind of jot down your ideas, and then we'll keep going. You are welcome to pause this recording as well as you are writing down your thoughts at any time. So hopefully that's helpful. So as we're going through the session, if you have questions around any of these topics, you can also kind of jot those into your agenda as well. There's a little spot here where it says questions, and we'll talk about how you can email those to us. So at any point, if you're confused or you have questions, that's where you can kind of jot those down. So I thank you for taking a moment to reflect on where you are with social emotional learning. What is social emotional learning? So social emotional learning is, according to CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic Social Emotional Learning, it's an integral part of education and human development. The official definition that they use is it's a process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. So you can see here with the CASEL wheel that you see to the right, we've got these 5 competencies, and those are really what make up social emotional learning. And you can see on the outside of the wheel, all of this is incorporated into outside of the classroom too. So we move from the classroom to the entire school, to families, caregivers, all the way into the community. So those 5 competencies you can see are also color coded, and you'll see some of these kind of show up in the Palo curriculum as well. We have self-awareness and self-management, which are kind of the intrapersonal skills with self, and then social awareness and relationship skills, those are interpersonal, so with others. And then finally, responsible decision making. So using kind of those other competencies to make those responsible decisions. So that is really where the heart of social emotional learning of this work is, and you'll see that show up in the curriculum as we kind of dive in. So we know that social emotional learning has its benefits. That's why we're talking about this today, and that's why we're here. So let's kind of go through some of those just so we're all on the same page as to why we're really doing this work. Social emotional learning does help our students, and it also helps us as educators. So behaviorally, you might be able to see this on the screen, but I'm going to read these just in case you can't see them. But students who have social emotional learning, there is a reduction in major disciplinary infractions, antisocial behavior, and substance abuse. Emotionally, there are improvements in emotional regulation when using social emotional learning in a curriculum. Academically, there's improvements in academic engagement and overall achievement, which is exciting. And then we have school safety. So there's improvements there and perceptions of organizational health and school safety. School climate, this is huge. So social emotional learning research shows that there's improvements in perceptions of school climate. And then finally, our favorite, social emotional learning has results of happier teachers. So reductions in teacher turnover. And as a former educator and now coaching teachers, I know that there is so much on your plate as an educator. There is so much going on right now, especially post-pandemic. So we know that this is really, really important in order for you to be a strong educator. So what does this mean for you? Your students, when they are learning social emotional skills, they will be more able to independently solve problems, cope with challenges. So as a result, you can spend more time teaching and doing those activities that you want to do. Your students will develop learning skills that help them to stay at the top of their class, stay on top of their schedule, so that you can spend more time preparing those lessons and those activities, spend time planning where you need it. And then finally, your students will be able to communicate more effectively. It's a big part of this. And as a result, there's better classroom culture, and you can quickly identify and attend to any needs of your students. So I hope that hearing all of that, you're excited to kind of dive into incorporating social emotional learning in your classroom. Really, with Palo, we're here to make social emotional learning stick for you and your students and not feel like this is something added to your plate. And so we're going to kind of dive into that in just a moment. So I'm about to turn it over to Michael, where we're going to kind of dive into Palo and what that's going to look like.
All right, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, before I show you guys what Palo is about, I would like Lori to help us to introduce Palo. Lori is one of the Palo coaches, and then she's the main drive behind our evidence-based social emotional learning. Let's hear what she has to say about Palo.
At Palo, we believe that a little progress every day adds up to big results. Hey there, I'm Lori Serrato, one of the lead coaches for Palo for Schools, an innovative SEL program for middle schoolers delivering daily bite-sized skill-building activities through our modern approach with zero prep needed for teachers or counselors. By using Palo in your school, you're helping middle school students to thrive both in the classroom and beyond by fostering those critical life, learning, and relationship skills. Students and teachers are busy, you know that, and we took that into account in designing Palo. So with only 5 minutes of daily practice inside of the Palo program, your students will develop the most important and relevant social and emotional skills such as self-awareness, self-management, empathy, resilience, relationship skills. Now, these skills benefit both your students' well-being and confidence, as well as enhance your classroom environment by addressing the stress or maybe the conflict or maybe adversity that is coming up and distracting your students from their academic learning. We want to help you get back to learning quicker. So Palo offers 36 weeks of daily lessons and activities for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders with absolutely zero prep needed for educators and no need to moderate discussion questions either. It's really easy to implement. Educators like you can seamlessly incorporate Palo into your daily plans, and students simply log into Palo and Palo will take it from there. In about 5 minutes, your students will have benefited from an engaging SEL learning experience, and you benefit from a better, more cohesive classroom environment. What makes Palo so unique is how we deliver the lessons to your students. There's really no other program out there quite like Palo. We provide bite-sized, interactive, evidence-based lessons in just 5 minutes daily. And we're using weekly modules developing in 3 key growth areas, which are self-management, learning strategies, and relationship skills. Plus, we provide a really simple way to track how your students are doing with a daily emotion check-in.
So let's recap. In Palo, we have 36 skills under 3 growth areas: self-management, learning strategy, and relationship skills. Each skill is taught in 5-day learning journey. So every day, students learn from a short 5-minute session with Palo. And along the way, we assess students' growth, provide student insights on a dashboard for counselors and other admins to understand how students are growing. And teachers like you receive a weekly newsletter on the skills of that week and resources to incorporate SEL in your own classroom. So like we mentioned earlier, Palo is very different from other SEL. As Lori described, there are zero prep. It's directly school. They will spend only 5 minutes, so they have all the flexibility, whether it's at home, at school, in your advisory period, and we convey all the student insight on a dashboard. So what is this 5-day journey? On day 1, we provide an animation of a middle school student who deal with common challenges of middle school. It helps students to relate to the skills via a third-person point of view. On day 2, we provide a coach video of a model coach who discuss the challenge that they saw in the story and potentially the skills that they can apply in their own situation. On day 3, students will have interactive content for them to practice the SEL and gain a deeper understanding of the challenges. On day 4, students will see a fun illustration with the information hotspot. And those hotspots will provide students more tips and tricks about the skill that they learned. And on day 5, students shift their focus to themselves, where they will be able to reflect on their own experience or plan the future actions. Yeah. Now let me pass on to Morgan, where she's going to talk about the scope and sequence and the framework of Palo.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll dive a little bit more into that 5-day journey in just a little bit. But right now you're probably wondering like, okay, what are our students actually really going to be learning? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. All right. So we're going to practice diving in by just doing a little bit of a notice and a wonder. Notice what you see in this skills framework document and maybe jot down things that you might be wondering when you see this. Also thinking about what skills you do recognize that you're familiar with and what skills might be newer to you and your student. So where you're going to find this so that you can kind of dive in is in your agenda. You can click on Palo Skills Framework. Just a quick note, we do have some other links. The Palo video that Michael showed, if you do want to come back to that, it's linked there. We also have the link to the slide deck if you'd like to come back to that. So right now we're going to click on the Palo Skills Framework. And when you open that up, it's going to kind of show you a PDF and these 2 pages, okay? And we'll also, I can kind of show you these on the screen as well. So this is what the first page will look like. And so as you're taking a look, know that there are 36 skills and they're each grouped by growth area. So that's kind of how we have it organized. So you can see the growth areas all the way to the right over here. We've got emotions, the mind, friendships, thoughts, learning, and then onto the second page, communication, identity, responsibility, and impact. So I'm going to give you a moment here to kind of dive in and take a look, do a little notice and wonder. And remember, if there's anything you want to jot down or any questions you might have, you can put them here in your agenda, and then we'll talk about how you can email those to us. So take a moment to dive in, and then we'll come back together. All right. So feel free to pause this recording if you'd like to kind of take some more time to dive in. Some things I want to note in there are so many skills. So like I said, there's 36 skills, and I hope that there were some that really kind of jumped out to you. So much you can see with emotions that we have things like understanding stress and identifying emotions, some really, really important skills. Some other things that I really, really love is things like growth mindset that you can see here with the mind. In middle school, there is so much with friends and just navigating conflicts with friendships. So we dig into that. Thoughts. Oh, this is so huge. Even as adults, that self-talk and using things like reframing, you'll see here with thoughts. And then with learning, this becomes so big in middle school all the way into high school and beyond. Just things like note-taking and just getting organized, so important, those strategies. And then as we move into our other growth areas, you can see some things that are so relevant for middle school, like tech safety and communication skills, and really finding your values and your strengths, and into responsibility, things like routines and just lots of good things. And then finally, we end kind of with that overall impact, contributing to your community, and just lots of great things, kind of hopeful for the future. So I hope there were some great things that you found diving in, but you can always come back to that link and you can find that here in your agenda. So you might be wondering, okay, I've looked into these skills. How will I know what skill my students are working on, and how I can really support them with this? And so that's where newsletters comes in. The purpose of these is to really tell you that current skill and give you some ideas for infusing those topics into your classroom or whatever role that you are in. And so you can kind of see an example over here. It will be color coded by the grade level that you're supporting, and then some ideas, and then some things that you can find in the toolkit, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. So those will come directly to your email inbox, and you'll get those each time we're in a new skill. So hopefully those are helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And there we are. So if you have questions, just jot those down, and I'll show you one more time. You can email us at palo@talentnook.com with those questions. So moving forward, we're going to just take a moment to kind of explore Palo and what it might look like on the student side. So I'm going to pass it back over to Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, Morgan. So here I'm going to show you the Palo Friday journey in a glance. So let's take a look at what students see in Palo. Student will get their own login and password. And then when they first log in, they'll get a warm message from us. And before they start, we would like to ask them how they're feeling right now. Students will have the opportunity to share how they're feeling today. The feeling thermometer builds self-awareness, and it helps students to connect their feelings, thoughts, and actions. As a result, students are way better self-regulated, and students do this every day before they go into engage with the main content. In this case, I feel a little bit uncomfortable because I'm in a presentation. Each Friday journey starts with a story. Day one is an animated story of a middle schooler just like them. We design a character for each grade with different scenarios every day. Storytelling is one of the best ways to connect students' imagination and new ideas. We want students to see themselves in the story and relate to their challenges before they move on to the next step. So let's take a look at our animation.
Alex was still feeling on the fence about Omar. He wasn't sure where their friendship stood. Not only were they not hanging out much, but Alex felt like Omar had been avoiding him at school too. Like the other day when he saw Omar walking down the hallway with Jake and Kyle, Alex's face lit up when he saw his friend. He wanted to say hi.
So on day two, they're again going to rate how they're feeling right now. And this is where we gave students a coaching video to talk about the challenge that was happening on Monday and how they can apply skills in a similar situation.
schooler, there are a lot more choices for you to make, and one of those choices is being able to pick who you want to be friends with. But did you know that most middle schoolers experience a change in who their friends are during 6th grade? Some old friendships fade and new friendships emerge. That might sound really scary because you probably want to stay friends with everyone, but this is completely normal and not personal to you. Everybody's growing.
So on day 2, we bring in a model coach who's in high school or college to teach the skill and sometimes share their personal experience. We also insert quizzes between videos to keep students engaged. And this is what a quiz will look like. On day 3, it's where students get to practice the skill of the week. They will get a game, either drag and drop or memory game. In this case, it's a drag and drop. And we ask them, what are the friendship qualities that are weak? What are strong friendship quality that they like? And what are friendship quality that they can then live without? Students will be able to visualize different qualities and have this as a reference to think about their friendships. On day 4, they will receive an illustration. And by clicking on the hotspots, they'll get more information about the detail of the illustrations. And on day 5, they get to reflect on their experience. You'll choose from these 3 cards, and each card will review a question regarding to the skill that they learned this week and ask them to reflect on it. And that concludes the 5-day journey. And a student going through this, we collect all students' response and we reflect on the dashboard. So this is the data that we're collecting from the students that we'll show it to your school leaders so they can understand the progress of students' growth. On the other hand, we are sending out a monthly survey to you guys. This survey is the most important thing to us. It's important that you give us your feedback on students' growth because you guys have the front row seat to see how students behave and how they grow over time. By you providing us feedback, we'll be able to make the SEO works better for you. And one of the most important factor for SEO success is your observation. So this is very, very important and very, very valuable.
It only takes a couple minutes to do it.
Yes, it only takes a couple minutes to do it. And let me turn this to Morgan to go over more how you can infuse more SEO into your classroom.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one last time. So you might be thinking at this point, like, this is great. I personally, I loved when Michael kind of shared that 5-day journey, and you can kind of see that it's different every day. It's quick, but it's different every day for our students. But these are really, really critical and important life skills, social emotional skills. And so you might be wondering, okay, so what are my next steps? Or what do I need to do as the educator? How can I really infuse these skills or these concepts into my classroom? So that might be what you're wondering. And we are going to take a moment now, and you're welcome to dive in at any point. You don't have to do it right now, but explore something that we're calling the toolkit. So as we said, and as Lori shared in that intro video, there's really nothing else that you have to do, but to really bring these skills to life, you can kind of start to infuse them in, kind of model them for your students, give them opportunities to work with their peers, things like that. So we're going to explore the toolkit and take a moment to do that. So where we are in our agenda, you can see here where it says link to toolkit. So when you open that up, it's going to take you into our toolkit, which is kind of just a folder right now. We've got some things to help you get started, and we've got some posters. So if you click in there, you'll see Michael was sharing that feeling thermometer. If you'd like to hang that up in your space, you're welcome to, or have that somewhere. So you've got that. And then we've also got some resources for you for the first growth area, which is around emotions. So you can kind of take a look at those. We also have all of these resources kind of in an index in one document, if you'd like to open up that, if that's helpful for you, organized by grade level. And so we also have a pre-assessment that students will take so we can see where they are. You can see some example questions there. And implementing a routine in your classroom around Palo, and then you can click into your grade level and see some resources. And so you can kind of see grade 7 and then finally grade 8. Okay, so if you look at this resource, you open that up. It's a PDF around identifying emotions, and we have a wheel here. Whereas other ones you might see, if I just click back, there's some more words to kind of guide you on some content from Palo. So this is actually from the curriculum, giving you some guidance around managing stress triggers, which students will learn about. And so this is just kind of giving you a resource and a guide for some of the things that they'll experience within the curriculum, and if there's ways that you would like to kind of bring this in with your students. So I give you a little blurb there to help you with that. So that's just one example. There's some things around mindfulness, lots of good stuff to dig into. So I'll give you a moment to kind of open that up. And again, if you're looking for where to find that, you can find link to Toolkit in your agenda. So feel free to pause this recording and kind of dig in a little bit. You can also see in that index that'll kind of give the order of those resources as well. So if you click into that index, you can kind of see how students will progress through those skills, and some videos and lots to dig into. So as you're exploring that, if questions come up, feel free to email us. And hopefully that's helpful as you get started. So your next steps, really kind of building your Palo plan and how this is going to look for your students. We know that there's our platform that they interact with for 5 minutes daily, but we do have some questions for you to kind of consider. You're welcome to jot down your thoughts in your agenda. So when it says build a Palo plan, it'll take you right down there. Some questions to consider and a spot for you to jot down your next steps if you'd like. So thinking about these concepts and how you can infuse those, take a look, dig into the toolkit, and think about your next steps. What resources do you really want to use in your classroom? What topics do you want to focus on modeling for your students? And building off of that, thinking about your own strengths and areas of growth. So your strengths are definitely something that you want to pilot, really kind of pilot and use as a platform to really guide your students. So when I was in the classroom, mindfulness was something that I was really working on personally. And so that was something that I was really modeling for my students. And we do have a resource on mindfulness if you'd like to dig into that. So that is kind of your next steps. There's really nothing you have to fill out or print out, but definitely dig into those resources if that is helpful for you and something that you want to take a look at. As you're thinking about your next steps, we are here to support you, your Palo team. If you have questions, we would love for you to reach out. We are always looking for feedback as well. So as you get those teacher surveys sent out to you, when it's time to take the survey, it only takes a few minutes, and that'll come along with those newsletters. And that'll give us the feedback so we can better support you and make those tweaks where necessary. So if you do have questions, you can find our email at palo@talentnook.com, and that's right in your agenda. And you're on your way. Thank you so much for being here today and watching this and interacting and just being so willing to kind of dive in and do this work and support social emotional learning skills for your students. Your next steps, really dig into that toolkit, use that for resources, and reach out to us for support by emailing us at palo@talentnook.com. Thank you all for watching and have a great start to your year. Thank you.
Thank you.